Under the late afternoon sun stretching across the hospital courtyard, everything froze for a split second. Footsteps, conversations, the rolling of hospital beds. Everything went silent as two police officers walked straight toward Hung's mother. Hoai Ca stopped cold. Her heartbeat pounding so hard it felt like her chest might burst. Hung rushed over, panic written all over his face, while his mother, usually so strong, turned pale, her hands trembling uncontrollably. Ms. Nguyen Thi Hung, we have a few questions regarding an active warrant. The air instantly grew heavy. A few patients quietly stepped aside, and several curious eyes turned their way. Hoai Ca felt her ears ring, and Hung didn't even know whether to shield his mother or demand an explanation. A warrant? Debt. How could Hung's mother, a woman who spent her whole life working to support her family, be involved in something like that? Or was there something she had been hiding all along, trying to keep everyone else from worrying? The truth might be enough to tear the whole family apart. Stay until the end of the video to uncover everything. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. The late afternoon in the hospital courtyard felt heavier than usual. The last bit of sunlight stretched across the stained walls, leaving thin golden streaks like fading threads. No one noticed anything unusual until two police officers walked in through the gate, their steps firm, heading straight toward a woman sitting alone on a stone bench, Hung's mother. She was flipping through some medical bills, her eyesight so weak she had to hold the papers close to her face. When she finally looked up, the shadows of the two uniformed officers blocked the light in front of her. "Are you Nguyen Thi Hung?" one of the officers asked. His voice wasn't loud, but it was enough to make someone as timid as her jump. She blinked in confusion. "Yes, that's me. Is there a problem, officer?" He opened his notebook and read each word clearly, like it was an official notice. "We're investigating a financial loan case. Someone used your full name, address, and phone number to borrow 30 million jong from a lending company." Her hands went limp immediately, the bill slipping from her fingers and falling to the ground. She blinked repeatedly, as if trying to convince herself she heard wrong. I never borrowed anything. I would never do something like that." Her voice shook like a thread ready to snap. The other officer pulled up a video on his phone and held it out to her. "This is the person we suspect. She looks very similar to you. She was seen near this area a few days ago, so we need to confirm a few things." Hung's mother stared at the screen. A woman around 50, hair tied low, worn-out clothes, round figure at first glance, very much like her, except it wasn't her face. She stepped back, hands trembling hard. "Oh my God, who would do something so cruel? Using my name to take out a loan? I didn't do any of this." The two officers exchanged a glance. Then one of them softened his tone. "Please stay calm. We're not saying you took the loan. But because someone used your information, we need to bring you into the verification room for questioning. This is standard procedure. It's not an arrest or detention." But to a woman who had lived her whole life honestly and never had any dealings with the police, just hearing verification room was enough to make her knees weak. Her lips trembled. "Officers, I've never done anything wrong. Please don't misunderstand." One of them placed a hand on her shoulder and spoke slowly. "You don't need to worry. We know you're not the one who borrowed the money. You're the victim here. Someone impersonated you. But we still need your cooperation to confirm the details." She lowered her head, swallowing her tears. She'd spent her whole life working hard and staying clean. Yet now, she had to walk with police officers, not because she'd done anything wrong, but because someone else used her identity to do something bad. She grabbed her small bag with shaking hands. "All right, I'll go with you." And then she walked forward, her small figure between two officers, looking like an old leaf being swept into a path she never imagined she would have to take. The door to the interview room closed softly, but to Hung's mother it sounded like a cell door shutting. She stood in the small, cold white room, just a desk, a few stacks of papers, and harsh neon lights that made everything feel even more tense. The officer placed a file in front of her. "Please take a close look. This is the signature used on the loan documents. Can you confirm whether this is yours?" She bent down, studying each stroke. Her face tightened in distress. My handwriting is terrible and I didn't sign anything. This isn't mine." "But why does it look so much like it, officer?" The officer nodded. "Yes, it looks very similar. That's why the lending company thought it was you." Hearing that, her legs almost gave out. She had been poor all her life, but she had never allowed herself to fall into debt or trouble. Next, the officer handed her a photo of the impersonator. "Take a good look. Do you know this person?" She stared at it for a long time. "Too long?" Then she shook her head, voice cracking. "I've never seen her before. I swear, I've never met this person." The officer wrote down her statement, speaking gently. "We believe you. Based on the data, you're not the one who borrowed the money. But the suspect deliberately chose someone who looks like you to avoid suspicion." She bit her lip, fingers gripping the edge of her shirt. "Officer, why would they pick me? I'm poor. I don't have anything for anyone to take advantage of." No one answered. Sometimes the harsh truth is simply this: they needed someone easy to blame. A moment later, the officer said something that made her eyes turn red. "You are not responsible for this. We just needed you to verify everything so we can rule you out. You are completely the victim here." Hung's mother was so overwhelmed she couldn't say a word. She had tried to stay composed the whole time, but only now, finally knowing she wasn't being accused of anything, did her legs truly weaken. They filled out the report, stamped the confirmation that she wasn't involved, and then the officer opened the door. "You're free to step out now. Your son and your family are waiting for you outside." She nodded and walked out. Her heart was still racing, but at least she was no longer under suspicion. The door of the interview room opened with a soft click. Hoai Ca stood at the start of the hallway, holding Tony in her arms, eyes fixed on that door for what felt like forever. The moment she saw Hung's mother step out, walking slowly back, slightly bent, clutching her bag like it was the only thing keeping her steady, her heart tightened. "Mom," she called out quietly, but her voice trembled with worry. Hung's mother looked up. Her eyes were red, still glossy with tears. She tried to smile, but her lips shook. I'm okay." But Hoai Ca knew exactly what kind of shock she had just gone through. She hurried to her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Mom, I saw everything. It's okay now. No one is blaming you." Hung's mother lowered her head, her voice hoarse. "Ca, I was scared. Scared they'd misunderstand. I've lived all these years. Never been in anything like this." Hoai Ca gently took her arm and guided her to sit on the stone bench along the hallway. She sat close beside her, speaking softly. "Mom, you're the victim. No one thinks you did anything wrong. No one." Tony looked at her, then reached his tiny arms out toward her. Just a simple, innocent gesture, but it made her eyes fill again. "Mom, just lean on me if you need to. I'm here, and Hung's here too. You're not alone." Her words felt like opening a door. Hung's mother exhaled shakily. When those two officers called my name, my legs almost collapsed. I thought they were arresting me. I thought I caused trouble for you two. Hoai Ca held her hand gently, giving it a squeeze. "You're a good person. And sometimes good people still get dragged into things. What matters is the truth is clear now." For a long moment, Hung's mother leaned back against the bench, letting all the exhaustion she'd been carrying finally settle. The hospital speaker echoed somewhere far away, the shuffle of sandals, the sound of a cart rolling by. But none of it mattered. It was just the three of them sitting together in the long hallway. A woman who had just faced an injustice, a young wife whose heart had been tied in knots, and a child reaching out with tiny hands, as if trying to hold the sadness of the adults. Hoai Ca kept her hand gently wrapped around Mrs. Hung's, rubbing slow circles over her knuckles, as if grounding her back into the moment. The hallway was quiet, except for distant footsteps and the occasional soft beep from a machine somewhere deeper inside the hospital. But around the two of them, everything felt still. Tony shifted in Hoai Ca's arms. He leaned forward with a tiny grunt and reached his hands toward Mrs. Hung, his fingers curling into her sleeve. The simple, innocent gesture made her lips tremble into a small smile, fragile but real. "He's such a sweet boy," she whispered, touching Tony's cheek with shaking fingertips. "Kids, they don't know anything about fear. Just looking at him makes me feel a little less scared." Hoai Ca nodded. "Kids don't judge. They don't misunderstand. They only know who they love." Mrs. Hung lowered her eyes again. "I'm just afraid. If people hear about this, they're going to talk. I don't want anyone thinking I caused trouble for you two," Mom Hoai Ca said softly, leaning close enough for her voice to feel like a blanket. "You didn't cause anything. You were the victim. If anyone has something to say, let them. We know the truth, and the police know the truth." Mrs. Hung blinked, letting her gaze rise slowly to meet Hoai Ca's. There was confusion in her eyes, and guilt, and something very old, the kind of fear only people who've lived simple, honest lives can feel when the world suddenly points a finger at them. "I thought my legs were going to give out," she admitted. "When they called my name, when they showed those papers, I thought, this is it. I'm going to shame my children." "You didn't shame anyone," Hoai Ca said firmly. "Mom, look at me. Please." The older woman lifted her head. "You did nothing wrong." Those words hit harder than Hoai Ca expected. She watched as Mrs. Hung's shoulders sagged, releasing tension she had been holding in for too long. Her breaths came out uneven, each one sounding like a small surrender. Tony made a curious noise and leaned closer to her, patting her arm with his tiny hand. Mrs. Hung let out a shaky laugh. "Even Tony knows you're okay," Hoai Ca murmured. Mrs. Hung brushed her fingers through the child's hair. "I really thought they were going to arrest me. I kept thinking, what did I do? Where did I go wrong?" "You didn't go wrong anywhere," Hoai Ca assured her. "Mom, sometimes bad people use good people because they think good people won't fight back. But you're not alone. You have us." Silence settled again, softer this time, not heavy like before. A nurse passed by and gave them a polite nod. A pair of medical orderlies pushed a stretcher down the hallway, but none of it touched their little corner. Hoai Ca gently moved Tony into Mrs. Hung's arms. Here, Mom. Hold him for a bit. Mrs. Hung hesitated for a second, then lifted the boy, pressing him close. Tony rested his head on her shoulder, like he always did, completely trusting. That simple act made emotion rush into her face all over again. He's warm, she whispered, holding him. It calms me. That's because he loves you, Hoai Ca said. A tear slid down the older woman's cheek. She didn't bother wiping it. Instead, she looked straight ahead, letting the fear inside her slowly unknot itself. After a pause, she asked quietly, "Where's Hung?" "Did he see everything?" "He's looking for parking," Hoai Ca said. "He wanted to run in right away, but I told him I'd wait for you here so you wouldn't be alone when you came out." Mrs. Hung nodded, pressing her hand to her chest. "My heart still hasn't settled. I keep hearing the officers' voices, like they're still reading those papers." "You're safe now," Hoai Ca whispered. "They confirmed everything. You're cleared." "It still feels unreal," the older woman said. "I've never even been inside a police room before. The walls felt like they were closing in. I know." "I'm sorry you had to face that alone," Hoai Ca said quietly. "But you handled it. You told them the truth. And the truth stood by you." Mrs. Hung let out a long, shaky breath. "I didn't sleep last night. Maybe that's why I'm so shaken today." "You'll sleep tonight," Hoai Ca said gently. "Hung and I will stay with you. You're not going home alone." "No, you two already have so much." Mom Hoai Ca cut her off carefully. "Being with you is not a burden. We're family." That word family softened something in the older woman's eyes. A few minutes passed before she spoke again. "When they closed the door behind me, it felt like I was being trapped, like I'd done something wrong, even though I knew I hadn't." She swallowed. The room was cold. The light was too bright. The papers looked official, like they were accusing me, but they weren't. "I know," she whispered, "but in that moment, I felt so small." Hoai Ca touched her shoulder. "You're not small. You're strong. Stronger than you know. Most people would have panicked and cried right away. You didn't." "But I wanted to cry," she admitted. "And it's okay to cry," Hoai Ca replied. "It doesn't make you weak." Mrs. Hung looked down at Tony, who was now trying to grab the edge of her shirt. The innocence in his eyes made her smile again, this time steadier. "When I saw his little hands reaching for me earlier," she said quietly, "something inside me just loosened." "He adores his grandma," Hoai Ca said with a soft laugh. "I'm glad he doesn't understand any of this," the older woman murmured. "He just wants to be held." "That's enough," Hoai Ca said. "Sometimes that's all a person needs." The hallway filled with light as the setting sun slipped in through the windows. It warmed their faces, brushing away some of the coldness of the moment they had just endured. After a long while, footsteps echoed distantly, hurried, familiar ones. Hoai Ca looked up. Hung was running down the hallway toward them, his face pale with worry. The moment he saw his mother, his shoulders dropped with relief. "Mom," he breathed, stopping in front of her. "Are you okay?" Mrs. Hung opened her mouth, but no words came out, only tears. Hung crouched down, resting his hands on her knees. "Mom, it's okay. You're safe. I'm here." She finally let out a shaky laugh. "I scared myself more than anything." Hung shook his head. "No, Mom. Someone used your name. You didn't do anything. We're going to handle the rest." Hoai Ca smiled faintly. "She's calmer now." Hung looked at his mother's tired face, then at Tony curled up against her shoulder. "Let's take her home," he said gently. She's been through enough today. Mrs. Hung nodded slowly, wiping her cheeks. But before she stood, she whispered one more thing. Thank you for not leaving me alone. Hoai Ca squeezed her hand. We never will.